On Brad's Triumph, change of plans. Stay tuned. Well, on Brad's motorcycle, there's a little change in plans. This is the new head. It had the spigot that I made for it special. We got ready to put this thing on the motor and it wouldn't fit. The reason it wouldn't fit is because of the pushrod tubes. Pushrod tubes are too long for this head. Come to find out, Triumph in the early to late 60s, and maybe even up into the early 70s, they were having a lot of trouble with oil leaks coming out of the pushrod tubes. Pushrod tubes, this is sitting on top of the engine. There's a pushrod tube that goes down here, and one that goes down here that goes to the base of the engine, sitting right above the camshaft. And there are solid lifters, they call them tappets in Great Britain, and a block down on the bottom that the tappets fit in. The push rods come up and push on the rocker arms in a rocker box that sit on top of these heads. Well, the push rod tubes are different configurations over 2 or 3 years. Triumph knew they were having trouble with oil back in those days. Excuse me. And so they were trying to figure out a way to combat that. And what they did is they took those tubes, the tubes are about this long, and they put O-ring seals in the bottom and O-ring seals in the top, and made the shoulders between those a little bit shorter so that they could stick O-rings in it. But what they also did, and this right here is a little counter bore where the thing goes in, the top of the pushrod tube. They milled those things deeper in the head. Now this is something we didn't know to look for. The engine that's in Brad's bike is an actual 1969 case. I don't know if the jugs are 1969 or not. They may be, they may not be. The head that was on it from 1964. I didn't know it, but these things are date coded. This is the new one. It's 1966. This is a newer head than the one that was on the bike, but whoever did the machining on the bike before drilled these things deeper and made them compatible with the pushrod tubes that are on that bike. We didn't even know to look for that. Todd at Lowbrow Customs is the one. I was watching his series. He's got an outstanding series of rebuilding a Triumph engine. In 1968 is what he's doing. But in episode number 10, he points out this discrepancy in these heads. And I never knew it up until that. I've watched all of those 10 to 12 to 15 of them. And it's just a little detail I almost missed until I couldn't fit this. So I went back and reviewed his videos, and he addresses that. And he's got a list of certain heads and certain push rods and certain tappet blocks that are compatible with each other. If you don't have the specific ones, they don't work. And this one doesn't work. So what we've done is we're going to put his old head, which has been repaired, on the motorcycle. Now the other thing, I had a number of people to contact me and ask me about that triple oversized exhaust spigot that I made. This is it. You can see where I cut the threads on the lead edge to kind of mimic a tap that goes in. Also notice this is a turn down shoulder right here. This is a standard exhaust spigot. You notice that shoulder is turned down there too. And what I've learned is when Triumph was tapping these heads, they have a special tap that the leading edge of it has a shoulder that sticks out so that the threads start away from the bottom of the hole. And these things have to be made to where the thread starts away from the edge, or you'll strip them out. And from what I understand, there are some aftermarket ones of these out here that don't do that. This right here is a 1.625. It's 1 5/8 with 20 threads per inch. That just falls out. Brad ordered one. The biggest one we could find is a 20,000th oversize. And it just falls out as well. It will almost hang. But we think that this is what was put in there before, and the guy stripped it out. So this one is made, this is 1.625. This is 1.645. This one is 1.657 in diameter, OD. And I turned this one, I made this one out of one of these pieces. I bored it out to the right internal diameter, bored the outside back, so you can see it took a bit of boring and machining to get that down. And then I threaded it on my mill, and then took this and put it on my milling machine, or I threaded it on a lathe. It's about beer time. And then I'll machine these little pieces in it right here to mimic the tap. So this I'm going to keep. Brad's going to put this in a shadow box. I also think he's going to put that in a shadow box of parts that we're not going to use. So I'm going to hang on to this, and maybe somebody else will need it, or if Brad needs to maybe use this head down the road. I can't imagine he would. Now we could modify this head and make it work, but he didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep it original. I have the cutting bits that I could actually mill that pocket or that counterboard down there deep enough that it would work. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to keep this stock, even though it's not stock. But those are his wishes, so I'm just here helping him work on this engine. So that's where we are.